What is up, YouTube? My name is OJ Man, and patch 9.2 came out today, and we're going to be looking at what I think are the best gods to be playing in solo right now. I've got, of course, the top 5, but some honorable mentions at the start. I hope you guys enjoy the video. All my links are down in the description, and I hope you enjoy the video. Thanks. Alright, and the first god in the honorable mention slot is Achilles. Why is Achilles here? Well, I think this god was really just unkillable. He's going to receive some nerfs, and I think Axe just having that 5 fist power away is going to affect a lot of gods, Achilles being one of them. His start is going to be a little worse, so I think you should be going Bluestone for a lot of gods right now. And Achilles, we're going to look at the start real quick. Bluestone Pendant, T1 Breastplate, and 4 health pots. I think that's what you should be going. In terms of matchups, Achilles was just always like meh. I think he's just the definition of meh in lane. You really just want to, get your auto attack cancels in while using your 2 to sustain up, and with Bluestone being relevant, his clear gets a lot better. So that way you can poke out a little bit better, include the wave a little bit better, in my opinion. And then this is what the build I would go into: Bluestone, Breastplate, Shifters, Bulwark, and then right here you can kind of slot this item. You can honestly go Runic before Bulwark if you think you can, or you can go Mantle. If they have crit, Spectral Armor, of course. If you need to build anti-heal, you can go Brawlers or Pestilence, and that's how I would build Achilles. And the second god in the honorable mention slot is Nike. She's just had a lot of rough play up until Worlds, and then at Worlds it was like she just started to see a lot less success. I would think it's just because her ult took a big hit, and then they nerfed the duration on the 2. So yeah, I think she's just pretty poor right now. She's honestly just fine, but she's just gonna lose pressure with Axe being out of the meta, pretty much, I think. And then Bluestone is okay for her, but her matchups she's really just passive. All she wants to do is just use her 1 to kind of just poke out with Achilles. Essentially, I think it's my opinion, and she's just really safe. But I don't think she provides too much in terms of pressure, so her laning can be really just and kind of boring in my opinion. And it's just alright. But this is the build I would go. I would go Bluestone, T1 Iron Mail, and then 3 health pots. And then going into the build, Bluestone Brooch, Mystical Mail. I feel like you should be going Mystical Mail Nike, even though it's kind of meh at the moment. I feel like it's just almost I must build on her. She's just really good at sticking to gods, and Mystical Mail is just a good thing for her. And you go Breastplate, Bulwark, Achilles, Mantle, and you can honestly switch any of these out. If you need anti-heal, you can go Brawlers or Pestilence last, or switch out Bulwark for Pestilence, but I think Bulwark is still really good. Or if they're building crit, Spectral. So that is how I would build Nike. And the third god I have in my honorable mention slot is, unfortunately, King Arthur, my bread and butter. He's rising out of the depths. He's very good. I think he's the best god that uses Bluestone. Yeah, so he's a lane bully through and through. His matchups are pretty good. I've been playing testing him a lot in ranked, and I haven't really lost any lane other than to maybe Ardio, I think. Yeah, he's just a lane bully, but late game, if you're not slamming, he's just okay. He's he's that god you want to be rolling early with, and you want to be able to 1v4 early. Late game, you kind of want to be blink initiating with your ult, and it's just kind of rough. So this guy is, you really just want to be bullying in lane with Bluestone and abusing his abilities and Bluestone procs. So that's how I would play Arthur. Let's go into the start. Bluestone, T1 Iron Mail, and healing. It's 3 health pots. And then the build, Bluestone, a little bit different here. Sovereignty, just the HP 5 and the health is really great. And honestly, for a while, Arthur was building a, Stone Gaia. And honestly, it just gave you a bunch of health early. And Arthur just did a shit ton of damage anyway. So you can honestly just kind of bully out, and you're sustaining lane between HP 5 and Bluestone. And Sovereignty, you're going to be feeling pretty great, to be honest. Alright, and then next is where it can get a little tricky. These 2 items I think you can swap out, and depending if you're winning lane or not, I think both are fine. If you want to be doing a lot more damage and running at your opponent, Shifters 100%. But if you think you're doing enough with your base damage on Arthur, you can go the Breastplate. And then after that, I think it's almost a must-buy to get Genjis on Arthur because you want cooldown on this god no matter what. Bulwark, I honestly I would build these two together no matter what, and then maybe, you know, I don't have special here, but for crit and then pestilence, you maybe swap out for Bulwark. I think you still need Genjis on Arthur. I think it's a must buy, and you can go mantle or spectral, or honestly I would just use your judgment. If you need anti-heal, pestilence, I wouldn't really recommend getting brawlers on this god. I think you want to be tanky as possible because it's base damage, and you're going to be using Bluestone Brooch and Bluestone Pendant a lot, so I would keep those, and just use your best judgment in getting spectral, mantle, or like any anti-heal item last. So yeah, that's how I would build Arthur. And the last god I have in the honorable mentions is Guanyu. Guanyu he saw some really good success rate at the beginning of last year, but he just got really some heavy nerfs. They recently buffed the cooldown on his 3, so that's pretty good, but other than that, he's just okay, I think. So his matchups, he's really bad into Cerberus in my opinion, and just like he's okay. Like if you can interrupt his 3, he's just, honestly, it's just pretty rough for him. Yeah, I feel like his matchups are just okay. Definitely bullies out like gods like Achilles, and Nike though just runs him down. Just certain matchups, and to move on, I feel like Guanyu's pretty poor too as well. But let's go and get to the start. So Bluestone Pendant, and then T1 breastplate, and then there should be some health pots right here. And then after that, the build I would go is Bluestone breastplate, and this is honestly, I feel like this god you can honestly go Shifters or Mystical. I think both are fine. You probably maybe want to get Genjis. I think you can build Bulwark. If you can build both, great. Honestly, this god just hasn't seen a lot of play, and I haven't been playing a lot. I do like Guan, but I think he's just in a weird spot right now, so I haven't really figured out like the essential order. But I feel like going like double Fizz, and then to 1 magical or 2 magical, and then having like a Cat Shield last, or a Mantle last, or a Spectral or Pestilence is pretty good. I didn't put those items here because I forgot to, but you could just kind of like the same, just situational, use your awareness. Yeah, and that's how I will build Guanyu. Alright, getting into the top 5. Our first top 5 god is Hercules. I feel like this god is honestly just always going to be good. His base damage is going to be crazy with his passive, and he's just a lane bully through and through. I don't think he really has any bad matchups. He's a good pressure god, good early, good mid, good late. 1 pluck can literally win the team fight. And yeah, it's really hard for him to have any bad matchups. I think, to be honest, he's just really hard to kill and dive on. So yeah, Herc. Let's go and get to the start. Bluestone into T1 breastplate, into some health pots. Pretty standard like we saw before. Bluestone Brooch, breastplate, Shifters, Bulwark, and then after this you can kind of go into whatever you want. Again, I didn't put the Spectral and Pestilence and stuff here, but I'd use your judgment and figure out what you need. I feel like Mantle on this god's really good, so Shield Regrowth, you know, pop that 3, you heal a bunch, and it's just feeling great. If you need anti-healing, go Pestilence, Spectral, and Brawlers, switch it out. Yeah, I'd say use your best judgment again, and that's how I would build the number 5 god, Herc. Alright, and next we have a tie between Cerberus and Sobek. The new Guardian item buffs to Jade Emperors and Footstone are really great for these gods, and you know they're Guardians, so they're going to be, you know, pretty naturally tanky, and they're really hard to kill, and these guys have been tried and true in solo before. You know, they might lose some pressure early to some warriors, but honestly, they're going to sustain up nice and fine, and you're not going to lose too much gold, maybe 300 to 400 gold if they're pressuring you really well. But honestly, if you get to late game, your late game is probably going to be a lot better with your initiation between the 2 of Sobek and Cerberus, so you're kind of just playing for that mid to late game, or you can honestly roll, because both of these gods do a ton of damage, and their team fight is really well as solo laners. Let's go and get to the start of Cerberus, and they're both pretty similar, so let's go and get right into this. So if you're going against another Guardian, you can go Warrior's Axe. I'd prefer to go Warrior's Axe to another Guardian, but if you're going to a Warrior, Vamp Shroud, I feel like this item is really good. It gives you great sustain lane, a lot of power, and it's just pretty good stats. And then you can go into T1 Helm if you're going against physical, and then if you're going against magical, Druidstone. And then here's how I would build Cerb. I would go Vamp Shroud if I can, or Warrior's Axe. and then go into Bloodsoaked Shroud or the Sundering Axe, and then I would go Jade Emperor's Breastplate, Voidstone Bulwark. But if you're going into a Guardian, I would honestly go. Honestly, you can honestly fit a Genji's in there, or you can just start up straight into a Bulwark and then go into a Breastplate and Jimps. I do think though, if you're going against a Warrior, you really don't want to go with Double Fizz. It makes you very tanky, and the stats on these items are great. But I would try to keep the core of these items all in the build if you can. And then later, if you really think you need to, get some anti-heal. You can get Divine Rune or Pesty. Or you can swap it out for Bulwark, but I still think Bulwark's really good, especially for Guardians. Spectral for crit, of course. Mantle is just a really good item. And Ethereal Staff is kind of like a spicy one. You know, if you're going to get some gods with, like, let's say they've got, like, I don't know, they're going like Sledge or something in the jungle, and they've got some pretty like high health targets on the other opposing side. You go Ethereal Staff. Honestly, the CCR is great, the passive is great, taking away their health. You get some, and the amount of power you get is pretty nuts. I think Ethereal Staff is pretty underrated at the moment, and that's how I would build Cerberus. Now let's go straight into Sobek, because it's pretty much the same thing. Honestly, the matchups are very similar. Not much to be said, you know, it's pretty much the same thing. I would pretty much build in the exact same way, and the matchups really is like, they're very similar, so honestly, you're not missing too much by me saying build them very similar. So yeah, on to the next one. And coming in at the number 3 spot, the only assassin on this list that I have is Camazotz. And it's another tie, because you can build these two very similar or very different, but I do think they almost function the same way. Just a kind of different playstyle in the later game, but I do think these are tied because you can build very similar builds or not. So we can start with Camazotz. Honestly, this is probably one of the only gods you probably won't be going Warriors X on. You can go Bluestone, but I really don't recommend it. I feel like if you get Sundering X on this god, it's really just good. And then honestly, this is probably the only gods that like is very high pressure as an assassin and 2 Guardians as well. It feels honestly alright. This god has a lot of sustain. It's very great into lane. Lane bully. Just a very good god, and this is how to start off. Warriors X and the T1 Mace into some health pots, and then after that, I would go into Sundering Axe, Jotuns, this version of Jotuns that has lifesteal, etc., etc. Shifters, Runic Shield, Cat Shield, and then the rest of the build is kind of like, which again, use your best judgment. Heartseeker is honestly all the times I go. I don't need to build anti-heal. Heartseeker, you're just going to be doing a lot of damage, one-shotting targets. Honestly, I think like this playstyle, Heartseeker is just the better option, but of course, is my opinion, you can always go Mantle and Spectral. And I don't think you want to be going Pestilence or Contagion with these guys, or with Camazotz. If you really just need some survivability, or like if they have crit on the team, Spectral or Mantle is what I do. The stun Mantle is really great as well. But yeah, that's how I would build Kama. Let's go right into Chalk, because they're very like they can be very similar or very not. Honestly, Chalk's a bit of a wild card. You can go Bluestone, and I've got 2 little things here. If I was gonna build Camazotz, I'd go Warriors X into building some Transcendence, Shifters, Runic, Cat Shield. Honestly, so much sustain again. Like, Chalk is just a literal lane bully, just like Camazotz. Honestly, this god, you're just going to be running at him. You can get max your 1 or your 2. Let's see. Honestly, I prefer this build over Bluestone, but if you were to go a Bluestone build, this is what I would go. Bluestone into, like, the T1, you know, breastplate with some health pots. I don't have a mirror because I forgot. But honestly, it's really just, like, whatever you feel like in with Bluestone. If you feel really tanky, you can like a breastplate or a runic and a bulwark or Genji's, or kind of just mix it up. You can put shifters in here after, you know, like some of the other builds. And then of course, really it's just whatever you're feeling, to be honest. I'd say use your best judgment. Spectral, Brawlers, Mantle. Honestly, Chalk is really, you can almost build anything on this guy. He's feeling great. He's really hard to kill, really hard to dive. One of the best early games right now for solo and SMITE for a while. He's just been slowly getting buffs, and I mean, Yarko at Worlds played both Kama and Chalk really well and showcased what they can do at a very high level. And these gods just can run a ranked as well. So I would give these gods a definite look at in the number 3 spot. And the number 2 spot, honestly, might shock some people. In my opinion, it's Osiris. saw it at Worlds, showed what this god can really do. And the reason I think he's number 2 is honestly because he's a very flexible god with his build. Honestly, you can go any of these 3 stars and feel like fine. You can go Death's Toll and lane and be an absolute bully. Bluestone you can abuse because you've got, you know, your 2 constantly throwing that out with some such low cooldowns in my opinion. The Warrior's actually constantly be proccing that axe, as well as honestly his damage mix is crazy. And honestly, I would start with breastplate, a T1 breastplate with some health pots, and any of these are honestly fine. The only thing I would not recommend is getting upgraded Death's Toll later, or get a different item in general. But you can go with the upgraded Bluestone or Warrior's Axe and the Sundering Axe. Sundering Axe is still insane. It's really just the reason Warrior's Axe is just that 5 power is like really hindering some gods and their clear and their pressure in the lane, or like being able to stay in lane with sustain, etc., etc. But if I were to build Osiris, this is how I would do it. I would definitely be going into breastplate and upgrading it into whatever one you need. You can honestly switch out Shifter's Shield and Mystical Mail. I believe these are optional. And then honestly, you can build Genjis or Bulwark if you wanted to, Pestilence if you wanted to. The build paths with this god are literally endless, because I feel like this god is just, you can really build almost anything on this god, and you're probably feeling pretty alright, because you can go auto tech based, you know, maybe shove Shoguns in there, or you can get Talisman if you want to, Bulwark if you really want to. I'm just saying, this god is very good. And like the reason I think he's just so good is because his lane matchups, he's just a pressure god that'll run you down, and you can really just build anything you want and probably feel pretty good. I would still go very tanky though. I wouldn't go any bruiser style like Camazotz or Chuck, but I would definitely just like stick to some of these core items. Definitely breastplate, and then honestly use your best judgment, Mystical Mail or Shifters if you want Bulwark or Pestilence or Shoguns. Toxic Blade is honestly really good on him. You know, his health just gives you some penetration, some movement speed, etc., etc. This god's great in my opinion, and I feel like everyone should have him in his god pool. This god's just really good in my opinion. Alright, on to number 1. And the number 1 god, to no surprise to any, I've been slamming this god in ranked, as well as, you know, just trying to 1v3 just like your core Worlds. Are you? This god is just nuts, man. I feel like this is the god that everyone should be trying to pick up if it's not banned. Very good pressure god in lane. The builds just favor her very nicely with the new Jade Imps and Voidstone buffs. She is like the only bad matchups I really feel like she has is into other Guardians, but like Guardians matchups anywhere are just pretty boring, and there's like a stalemate lane. They're just gonna heal back with their sustain between like, Cerberus and Sobek, so honestly it's not even that terrible. And she pretty much beats any warrior, especially with the builds right now. This is how I would build Ardio though. Vamp Shroud if you're the Fizz, if you're not, Warrior's Axe. And even then, with Ardio, I feel like you can still go Vamp Shroud into a magical and still feel fine. The sustain from Vamp Shroud and Ardio's, you know, just innate healing is really good. If you're into Fizz, of course, T1 Helm. And if you're into magical, the Druid Stone T1. And this is how I will build Ardio. Blood Soaked, of course, is so nice on Ardio. You're going to be healing so much. Even if they have like anti-heal on you, you're still going to be healing a lot. And if you have to go Sundering Axe, it's fine. The passive is still great with their healing, etc., etc. Like being able to proc that and then just heal, it's just great. And then this is what the next couple items: Jade Emperors into Breastplate, into Voidstone, into Bulwark. This core I will not change at all. But if you need to build Magic D first, you can go Bulwark or Genjis first if you're into Guardian. Genjis is like really situational, but as honestly probably feels fine. But I definitely would like to have a Voidstone or Bulwark in my build, because these items together, and with this god, you're gonna be doing so much damage, and it's very hard to kill you. And then some, you know, just optional items, of course. Mantle, the stun is great. A lot of protection. Spectral, they have crit. Pestilence, you know, just if you need some anti-heal. Ethereal Staff, you know, again with those health, like high health targets, you can take some away. And the only item I don't have on here is Divine Rune, and I left it off there for a reason, because I do think with Ardio, you do want to be as tanky as possible and just try to like be that Yarkor 1v3, 1v5, 1v2. Just be that god with your healing and be as tanky as possible, because your damage with Ardio is already very nuts, and honestly this god should be being picked up no matter what. I feel like this god is just really great. Honestly, I feel like she has no bad matchups at all into any warriors right now. So I do think she is the #1 god to be playing right now, and I would recommend playing her. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. All my links are down in the description, and thank you for watching.